The Secret Story of Hin. Chapter 11. Ida the Great. Ida, a quiet force in the group, her hands worked with purpose, weaving life into every strand of vine she touched. She'd started on the vest not just out of practicality but out of love, the deep, unspoken love for Hin. She saw something in him that others couldn't. His early years, she watched Mrs. Bessie evil ways take a hold of him. But she never broke him. He waited, he watched, he learned, he grew, he planned, and he struck. Hin's spirit so fearless that it seemed fueled by the ancestors themselves. His bravery was contagious, but it was also dangerous. Every time he left the safety of the swamp either to lead the patrolmen away from the group or raid a plantation for supplies, Ida's heart twisted with worry. Her hands moved with purpose, weaving the vines into intricate braids that seemed to tell their own story. Each pattern symbolized a fragment of home, a memory from the ancestors, whispers of resistance, and the unyielding will to survive. The vines she used were no ordinary plants. They were swamp-born marvels, chosen for their tensile strength and resilience. She soaked them in mud to soften them, then dried them under the Louisiana sun to harden the fibers, creating a thread-like material both flexible and strong. The process of crafting the vest was grueling. Ida worked in secrecy, her hands moving rhythmically, even as the swamp's oppressive heat sapped her energy. Every knot was a promise, every weave a prayer for survival. When the vest was complete, it resembled the armor of a forgotten people, an unyielding testament to Ida's skill and determination. But her vision didn't stop there. What if we made it invincible? She mused aloud one night. She envisioned the vines hardened not just by her hands, but by fire and steel. Patwa and Mesa became her collaborators. Hin had stolen tools from nearby plantations, rusted tongues, chipped hammers, and broken molds. Using these, the trio built a crude forge deep in the swamp, hidden beneath the canopy of ancient cypresses. They scavenged scraps of iron and steel, broken shackles, discarded horseshoes, and rusted tools, melting them down into a molten pool. Slowly, painstakingly, they dipped the vine vest into the liquid metal, layer by layer. The hiss of steam rose like a battle cry as the molten alloy bonded to the fibers, transforming the vest into something extraordinary. When it cooled, the vest was both light and impenetrable. Its metal sheen caught the light in subtle ripples, but its surface was dull enough to blend with the swamp. It was a marvel of engineering and desperation, unlike anything the world had ever seen. Hin was hesitant when Ida handed him the vest. "It'll protect you," she said firmly, her eyes fierce with determination. "You carry the weight of all of us. Let me help carry yours." The vest fit snugly, its weight surprisingly negligible despite the metal. Its braided surface pressed against his chest, warm like a second skin, and its design allowed him to move freely through the swamps. The first time he wore it into battle, he understood its worth. During a raid on a plantation supply store, the overseers spotted him. Gunshots rang out, the sound slicing through the humid night air. He braced for pain as the bullets found their mark, but instead of piercing his flesh, they flattened against the vest with dull thuds. The woven vines, reinforced by layers of metal, absorbed the kinetic energy, spreading it across the surface like ripples in water. He felt the impact, a sharp pressure against his ribs, but no more than that. When the overseers saw him stand, unscathed and unbroken, their faces contorted with disbelief and terror. He became a phantom in their eyes, invincible, untouchable, a nightmare that walked among them. He used their fear to his advantage, striking swiftly and retreating into the shadows before they could recover. While the vest was her crowning achievement, Ida's ingenuity didn't stop there. Now, she turned her attention to creating a camouflage suit to further protect him. For this, she studied the swamp itself, the interplay of light and shadow, the textures of bark and moss, and the way water reflected its surroundings. She collected moss, bark, and reeds, blending them with the same braided vine technique she used for the vest. The suit was a marvel of natural mimicry. Its exterior was covered in layers of swamp materials, making it nearly impossible to distinguish him from the trees and undergrowth. Ida even treated the materials with mud and plant oils to neutralize his scent, ensuring that hunting dogs couldn't track him. When him donned the suit, he became one with the swamps and forest. He could lie motionless among the reeds, invisible even to those standing mere feet away. It allowed him to scout plantations, sabotage supply lines, and rescue the enslaved without detection. The suit became his shield, his armor, and his disguise, a tool of liberation forged in the fires of Ida's brilliance. By 1850, the outskirts of Houston were lined with sprawling plantations whose names, Blackstone Grove, Whitford's Landing, and Elm Chain, were whispered with dread. These estates were vast prisons, their fields heavy with cotton and cane, their boundaries guarded by men who ruled with whips and guns. Escaping such places was a death sentence, but him wasn't like the others. He didn't flee for freedom. He fled to fight, to tear the system apart brick by brick. Him was no ordinary fugitive. He became a legend, a phantom of the swamps, a nightmare to the men who profited from chains. His survival wasn't his own doing, though. The quiet, forgotten Ida had made him invincible. She stitched together a vest that turned bullets into raindrops, and a camouflage suit that let him vanish into shadows. Ida, unseen by history, shaped the man who became a myth. "You never forgot that. Ada made me," he would later say. "She turned me into the ghost they fear." The sparks of rebellion ignited by him's raids, though whispered and unrecorded by official history, planted seeds of unrest that would grow into a reckoning. His actions, and those of countless others like him, struck at the foundation of a nation built on slavery. Though the Civil War was still a decade away, the fear and chaos him spread foreshadowed the storm to come. Blackstone Grove was the first to fall. It was a sprawling plantation of 300 souls ruled by Nathaniel Blackstone, a man who starved his workers and punished with unrelenting cruelty. Bloodhounds patrolled the grounds, and armed overseers rode through the fields, ready to crush any hint of defiance. Him spent weeks observing from the edges of the swamp, learning every shift and every weak point. On a moonless night he struck. The swamp had taught him patience, and Ida's suit had given him invisibility. Bullets sparked harmlessly off his vest as he moved through the fields, cutting chains and freeing the enslaved. Among the first he freed was Jangaba, the blacksmith with arms carved from centuries of labor, his skin dark as scorched iron, his palms so calloused they looked like tree bark peeled back from a storm. His hammer still swung in his dreams. Beside him was his younger brother Rollins, long-limbed and lanky, easily 7 feet tall. We called him Tree Rollins. Still makes me crack a half-smile thinking on it, though nothing about that night was funny. Eva came too, mouth like a blade and wit like gunpowder. She'd been serving biscuits and secrets in the master's kitchen for years. She spat curses under her breath even as we cut her chains. And there was Nettie, bent by time, bones hollowed by hunger and grief, too frail to run, too wise to be left behind. Hugh lifted her, didn't hesitate, carried Nettie like a child through the moonlit cane fields, her breath brushing his neck, her whispered prayers dancing in the air with the hum of crickets and the soft moan of distant dogs. The scent of blood and smoke chased them, and when the fires erupted behind them, licking the sky like hell's tongue as Blackstone Grove burned, he never looked back. The night devoured them. The swamp swallowed them whole. All that remained was the stench of smoke and the taste of fear crawling down their throats. Whitford's Landing was smaller than most, but don't let size fool you. Evil doesn't need much room to grow. It squatted on the edge of a winding river, and its master, Gideon Whitford, was the kind of man nightmares feared. He didn't just punish rebellion. He made a sport of it. Dissenters were chained and tossed to the gators. He called it feeding the devil. Said it with a grin like he was doing God's work, but him saw it differently. He saw weakness, an opening, a target. He came by water, slick with mud and silence, wrapped in the suit Ida stitched, camouflage born of swamp and struggle. He moved like mist and became part of the dark. Then he struck, fast, surgical. The first overseer was still scratching his balls when him opened his throat. The others barely had time to lift their rifles before steel kissed their guts. The river sang with blood, its surface broken only by bodies and ripples. 30 souls were freed that night. Among them was Isaac, a nervous man with darting eyes who'd been forced to guide patrols. Cowardice at first glance, but fear don't always mean weakness. Him saw that. He saw more. Athena, younger sister of Nettie, both beautiful, quiet, and powerful, carried her twin infant boys Quincy and Jason across the river like Mary with Jesus, her back straight even as her knees buckled. She squeezed them both close. She didn't cry, didn't flinch, just moved forward. By dawn, Whitford's Landing was nothing but a broken name. No orders barked, no whips cracked, only the hush of ash drifting through empty fields. The overseers lay where they fell, dead men feeding worms, and the river carried something new, the cries of the freed, a guttural, defiant hymn that haunted every white ear from Georgia to Louisiana. The next plantation, Elm Chain, was even worse. Its trees remembered, the massive elms that gave the plantation its name had seen centuries of blood. Their trunks bore the scars of chains, of backs torn open, of boys hung like ornaments for running too slow or speaking too loud. Its master, Bernard Vickers, was the kind of man who broke families like kindling, bought children like wine, kept mothers crying in one house while their babies screamed in another. Among them was Cranston, son of Daniel. Daniel died in that raid, but he took 3 white men with him before the final shot split his chest. His sacrifice lit the fuse and helped free many on the Elm Chain plantation. With blood on his lips and breath fading, his last words cut through the chaos. "Save the children, my boys, Cranston and Kevin." Kevin, at just 8 years old, I believed was in total shock. He'd never recover from that day. He'd spend months without speaking one single word. Cranston, 10 years old, silent, eyes older than any child should wear. Him saw himself in that boy, and saw the ache of a stolen childhood, the scream that had no sound. Him hit the Elm Chain plantation like thunder. He set fire to the overseer's barracks first, watched them stumble out choking blades in hand, rage in their eyes. By the time they realized it was a diversion, him was already in the slave quarters, already moving. He found the children huddled like baby birds in the dark. Cranston among them, no shoes, no hope, just trembling. Him whispered, "Be brave, boy," as he took Cranston on his back and started to run. Tree grabbed his brother Kevin. Not even when a bullet tore past his ribs did they stop. They vanished through a wall of fire and screams. By morning, Elm Chain was charred bone. Nothing left but ash and memory, and freedom. Deep inside the swamp, where sunlight bowed to mist and cypress roots twisted like old witches' fingers, the camp grew. What started as a hiding place became something else. A nation in shadows. A boot camp for the broken. Each raid brought more mothers and widows, orphans and warriors, the whipped and the willing. Patwa, sharp-eyed and never tired, ran the camp like a general. She assigned duties, rationed food, and cracked skulls when needed. Jangaba returned to his forge, turning shackles into spearheads, fire into freedom. Isaac, now baptized by blood, became a guide. His fear burned out, replaced by precision. Mesa and Athena became caretakers, healers, teachers, holding sick babies with one hand and blades with the other. The swamp no longer just hid them, it armored them. A living, breathing fortress, a weapon. The white folks told tales, said there was a ghost in the cane, a devil in the trees. Said he moved like smoke, killed without mercy, freed without warning. But among the enslaved, he was more than myth, more than man. He was salvation in flesh. A whisper passed in kitchen corners, behind prayer fans, under beds. Yet Hin never claimed the glory, never raised his voice. He'd just say, "It was Ida," said it like gospel, like truth. "They call me the ghost, but she was the spirit. She made me. She's the reason I still breathe." History might forget her, but I won't. His fear didn't end when the fires died. His name didn't vanish when the chains broke. No, his name grew. It slithered through Georgia fields, rolled riverboats to New Orleans, and passed through lips like secret spells. One rebellion became two became 10. Small sparks that would one day grow into firestorms. The South trembled. The Civil War hadn't started yet, but you could smell it in the air like rain before lightning. And he pressed forward, never stopping, not because he wanted glory, but because the people, his people, were still not free. He carried their pain, their hopes, their ghosts. He carried Khaleesi's voice, like a heartbeat inside his ribs. He carried Mama Khaleesi's final whisper, "Rise, sunrise, rise."
Thank you. You've been listening to The Secret. Story of him, from enslaved to the grave. The man who freed more slaves. Then Harriet Tubman. Chapter 11, Ida the Great. Thank you for walking with us through this chapter of quiet fire, where love became armor, and Ida's hands stitched resistance into every thread. If her story stirred something in you, honor that feeling, like subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop your truth in the comments. Every voice strengthens the legacy. Chapter 12 is coming. Tap the link and walk with us deeper into the storm. Support the mission. Cash App, MyUtime. This ain't just a story. It's a revolution sewn by hand. A memory that won't die. A woman's love turned into war.